Welcome to the Party Wagon Podcast, where we talk about all things TMNT, past, present, and future. I'm your host, Eric, from the YouTube channel No You Grow Up.
And I'm your host, Brendan, from the YouTube channel Brendan's Rambles. Not a ton of news to talk about this week, so I guess we'll just kick things off with how you been, man?
Yeah, pretty good, actually. Things are starting to regulate for me a little bit in life. I've actually gotten 2 videos out in the last week, which I think I've only gotten 3 out in the last 2 months before that. So, yeah, hopefully I can just kind of start getting a little bit of traction again. But, yeah, other than that, been really good. Like I was just telling you before we started this, I have 200 hours into Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm almost wrapped up with that game. So, again, that's probably another thing. Well, I guess that really takes up time where I just would have been watching cartoons in the morning, like getting ready for the day on Saturday and Sunday anyway. So it didn't really cut into too much of my what would have been video time anyway. But yeah, it's been really fun. I've enjoyed the crap out of that game. I wish I could talk about video games on my channel, but I don't think anybody would watch it. So
you never know. I mean, I didn't talk about video games for a while. Then I made a video about Super Mario RPG, and it has like over 3,000 watches now. Like,
yeah, I don't know how that happens. Like if I talk about anything other than modern Turtles action figures, I don't get any plays.
I mean, the thing is, it's got to be current. Like that's a hot topic right now because, the Mario RPG remake was shown off in July. It's not coming out until late November. So, in all that time, people are going to be searching videos about it. Right. So it's like I've posted videos about older games, and they have 100 views. So it's just like if you do current stuff, which I don't usually want to talk about current stuff. So yeah, I'm planning to do a ton of videos soon. We'll see, because
aren't we all, man? Aren't we all?
Halloween's coming, and I just usually when I go crazy.
Oh yeah, you usually do have a little influx of spooky videos during this season.
I get an influx of videos and a reduction of views every October because my audience generally does not want to hear me talk about horror movies.
But isn't your most popular video your Sleepy Hollow one?
It's the second most popular.
Okay.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one blew up. But for some reason, if I talk about anything else horror, it just doesn't get any traction. I don't know. It's probably a combination of people don't want to hear me talk about it. They don't have the same similar interests as me. And it's just, there's so many people already talking about that stuff online who are doing it better. So, and probably because my thumbnails usually don't show what movies I'm talking about in the thumbnail. It's just a drawing. So no one really knows what the hell they're clicking on. They're just like, what the hell is this drawing? So I don't know, maybe, but yeah, I plan to do a bunch of stuff for Halloween. Last year I did 7 videos in October. I don't think I'm going to go that crazy this year.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's nuts, man.
That's probably more than I put out in 2022. 2023, I mean, the whole year of 2023. It's I don't even think I put up 7 videos yet. But yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm always looking forward. My house is completely decked out with Halloween stuff. So
you already have it done. I have a hard rule. We can't start till October because I feel like it just taints it. I want October to be 100% spooky from start to finish.
I totally understand that. I hate it when people start too early, but for me, it's time goes so fucking fast. It's my favorite time of year. I want to enjoy it, man. I want to. October, if I put it up in October, it's gonna feel like 1 week, and then I gotta take it down. So for me, I put it up early. I mean, the table you can't see it. But the table I'm using right now has a black spider web tablecloth on it right now and everything. So yeah, I'm gonna do at least some horror themed videos soon on my channel, and then when October's over, I'm gonna in November I want to get back to doing some of my other videos. I want to continue the vintage Playmates Turtle Talk videos I want to do the Michelangelo variants and stuff. But
that's what got me hooked on you, man.
That's how we met. Yeah, as I rambled about my childhood action figures, and now we're doing a podcast. So good things have come from those.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it really is. When I first saw those videos, I was like, man, I just really hope I can talk to this guy about turtles one day. And sure enough, now we're doing a podcast together.
Now we do it every other week. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy. Again, I might not be the most popular channel, but I'm just glad to see the impact those videos had, because I thought no one would give a shit about those videos. I thought 5 people would watch them and just be like,
yeah. And like I said, whenever I just strictly talk about vintage stuff, it does not do nearly as good as modern stuff does for me. So kudos to you for catching the algorithm on that one, because I can't seem to do it with vintage stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about those. I don't know who discovered those and maybe reposted it on Twitter or something, but somehow it got out there, and people, compared to a big channel, they don't have a lot of views. But for me, several thousand views is a big deal. So And just a lot of the comments I've gotten on those videos has just been great, of people just like sharing their childhood experiences with certain figures and stuff, and telling me how it connected to them. And it's nice when people tell you like, oh, you come off more real than other YouTubers. It's like, oh, it's
Oh, yeah.
nice to hear. So
Yeah, that is always one of the best compliments to get to, because that's like, again, I don't ever want to call myself a YouTuber. Like, I have a YouTube channel, but I mean, like, I don't know, I'm just a regular guy, just like you.
yeah, I like to think I'm a game developer, but
Wish
but
I could think of myself as something cool like that.
I mean, I'm just a guy. I'm just Brendan. But yeah, I had a good week. Went to Rhode Island, saw my mom, hung out with my family for a bit, saw a cousin I haven't seen in 13 years and stuff. So about to do a bunch of stuff for Halloween. But anyway, what is coming up in October, not Halloween related, you can get me off of that for a second. We have New York Comic Con coming up. I don't know exactly if anything Turtles is going to be shown off, probably, but I don't know if anything is going to be shown off by NECA, or I hope not Super 7, because they've shown off enough. But well, what are you expecting from New York Comic Con?
Like we were kind of talking about earlier, I can't really remember what they did announce last year, so I can't remember if there is going to be like any big TMNT announcements. I know they always do like blow their wad at San Diego Comic Con. I think New York Toy Fair is another one where they might break stuff out, so I'm not 100% sure when that is, but it'd just be cool to see some more Toon figures if they showed anything. That's one thing I'd really like to see. I feel like they went in really hard with the comic lines at SDCC. So it'd be cool if like I said, the Toon line just got a little bit more love, because there just wasn't really a lot of original characters, and that just bummed me out. That's the one thing I do want a little bit more of before that line kind of starts to reboot, like I feel like they're getting ready to do, is maybe redo every character. So just knowing that I might get a Tempestra or something like that before it's over would be great.
I think we need Tempestra. It would be weird if we got, Dirk Savage and some of these characters and not Tempestra, because I think Dirk Savage has kind of like retroactively become popular online because his episode had so many mutant characters like in one episode. So it's kind of become like this famous episode after the fact. But I don't think most people remember Dirk Savage from their childhood. Most people remember the Tempestra episode. So I think like Tempestra deserves a figure a lot more than some of the picks like Jersey Red and stuff that we've been getting. So I definitely think Tempestra is mandatory. I still think Ray is mandatory. I know he's kind of unanimously hated by most people, that rendition, but I think he's just so well remembered that we need him. And I'm still gonna keep plugging the idea that they need to make Murdude, but yeah, there's definitely a whole bunch we could still get. I know like they went really over the top with the Toon line in recent years, so I know they're trying to please the fans who've been starving for like Mirage stuff and Archie stuff. And the Archie stuff seems to get like big reactions. It seems like when they showed off those wrestler turtles, people went nuts.
Because that's one that everybody's been clamoring for really hard, and we've both talked about this. I've never even read a single Archie book, so to me, like these are brand new looking turtles to me. I'd never seen those before, but anytime they'd bring up the Archie line, that's give us those wrestling turtles, give us those wrestling turtles every single time.
Yeah, I don't know the context. Like, I don't know like when they become wrestlers, how they become wrestlers, what they do as wrestlers, but people fucking love them as those wrestlers. So whatever it is, I guess it's a big deal. Like I said, I've seen the Wrath before, where he's like in the all black with the blue highlights. That's all I've seen. I've never seen the other ones before.
So I want to say, isn't that April character they tease? Isn't that like an all dark turtle too?
No, she's just a regular. She shouldn't be. I think she's just a regular turtle with like a white headband and like
gotcha
and stuff. I don't know what happened to that April figure. That wasn't at SDCC. We might see it.
No, they teased that at the April thing this year, didn't they? April and April or whatever.
At April, like in April, the month of April, they teased it, but she wasn't at SDCC.
Yeah, I just realized that.
The only new ones they had for Archie were the Wrestling Turtles, Mondo Gecko, and Belly Bomb were the only new ones. But yeah, they'll probably show her off at New York, or even if they don't show anything new off for TMNT at New York, I think we might just get some updates on like release dates of when this stuff is coming. Like they might tell us like, oh, in a month you might start finding Archie Mondo on shelves or something. Like they might give us some release dates. So
Yeah, and I
Uh,
know the thing that might be tipping it off is everyone was showing pictures that the Space Usagi is in Target's system, so people can pull it up and see it. And it is a single pack figure, which I figured the what if figures were going to be packaged together. So I'm kind of surprised that they always are going to be Ultimates figures. But I guess they do have a lot of accessories and gear, and there's a lot more that goes with them, so it does make sense. But there's one of whatever Target's thing is. It's either Holothon or CollectorCon. I can't remember which one it is that's coming up. I
Collector
think that's
Con, I
going to
think.
be probably the figure for the NECA day.
Okay, yeah, it's the Collector Con. I think they do in October or September, whatever.
I can't remember which is
Yeah,
which.
I know Holothon is the spring. That's the one that I've lost,
Yeah.
hundreds of dollars to.
Yeah, that's the one where they just go all out every single year, and it's just yeah.
I don't know if they will for the Toon line this year, as I've said before, because I think this last Holothon didn't go as hot as the one before it. I think we'll still get some stuff, but yeah, they said I originally thought the Space Usagi and the Space Don were going to be a 2-pack, but they said at Comic Con that the Space Don's coming with the Samurai Mike as a 2-pack. So I guess just Usagi's an Ultimate, and the Turtles, the What If Turtles, will still be 2-packs.
Yeah, so Playmates just released another 4-pack, one of the ones you can get on Amazon that come in like the collector's cardboard box case, I guess. And it's
Yeah.
for Archie, which I think they came out with 2 of them, 2 separate ones for Archie. Each one comes with 2 turtles, and then the one comes with Splinter and April, and the other one comes with it's Man Ray because it's for Archie, and then Mondo Gecko.
Yeah, I think the first one was April and Mondo. I think this one is Splinter.
Okay, is that where the
and Man
mutants
Ray.
are mixed up in them?
Yeah, they
Okay.
put like one mutant, like one extra mutant character, and then one main character, and then 2
Gotcha.
turtles. But they're weird because the turtles are like the Mirage ones they did like a decade ago, but painted to look like the Archie ones. But then the other characters are the vintage Playmates ones, but painted to look like their Archie designs. It's a case of like I don't get why they're even bothering, honestly. Like they're putting them in these deluxe packages, these nice packages of like the turtle van and stuff, because they know no one's gonna buy them if they just put them on store shelves. Because it's like, dude, NECA's already doing real deal Archie figures. Like, what are these? These are just repaints of the same figures. And they don't really look like the Archie versions of the characters, in all honesty. So I don't know.
I feel like going to those Mirage style turtles is moving further in the wrong direction. Like I feel like the bodies for the regular Playmates turtles fit very well with Archie because they're kind of both. I mean, I guess they are kind of an amalgamation of the cartoon and the Mirage figures, but for me, it seems like the regular sculpts definitely would have been the better way to go there. And then I don't know, maybe just give them pupils or something to make them look a little different. I guess I don't really know how you would have differentiated those from regular ones. Maybe that's the only reason they did it, is so they look different. But the Man Ray figure, it is kind of a cool deco, but again, for me, it's not really worth buying a 4-pack that I don't really need outside of that. Same with the Mondo. The Mondo figure is kind of cool. It's just cool that it's a different paint job that we've never seen before. But yeah, both easy passes for me.
Yeah, definitely easy pass for me. I mean, I have the Playmates original Mondos and Ray Fillet. I have the NECA Archie Man Ray. I'm gonna get the NECA Mondo Gecko Archie. So it's like, why do I need this weird middleman, like in between thing that I mean, it's cool for people who want it, but for me personally, I just have no use for that. It's just kind of how I feel about Playmates as a whole. But they are still actually making new figures sometimes, though, because they're putting out the next wave of Mutant Mayhem figures.
Yeah, so it's just 4 more figures. Well, I guess there's going to be a 5th like super figure, but right now it's just 4 more figures that are just on the regular card backs with the blister bubbles. And it was Scumbug, Napoleon, or is it Genghis? God damn, I can never remember.
It's Genghis.
Yeah, Napoleon. Shit, god damn. It's Scumbug, Genghis,
I think Wingnut,
and
Mondo.
Yeah, it is Mondo.
What about Ray Fillet? Is he in the wave also?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just those 4, right?
That's
because
weird.
Mondo wasn't in the first wave.
No,
I don't know
wasn't.
if he wasn't.
He wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he is in this one, and then I don't know if they've even shown a Ray figure that I can think of.
They did I guess that was at SDCC. They did at the table where they showed like Super Duper Fly and everything. There was a Ray fillet there, but
Okay.
I don't know if they're planning a whole other wave and they're going to throw them with that, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, pretty cool that they're still getting a couple more figures out, but I'm wondering if this is going to be kind of the end of the line. I guess we know there's that Super Fly Ultimate figure that's coming out, but the one thing that we also just got shown was the tease for the series that's coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tales of the TMNT, and I'm very interested to see like what this is going to be. If it's going to be like what if stories just using this same design, if it's going to be like side stories that like happened before or after. Like I feel like there's a lot of different ways they could go with this series.
Yeah. I mean, all we have right now literally is just the logo, and it's like, yep, looks like the same art style. So it's obviously going to look different since it's going to be 2D and the movie was 3D. So I don't know how they're going to adapt with like the lower budget and not using 3D. So I don't know what it's going to look like. But I assume it's probably going to look pretty good. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to go with for the premise. I think I've heard some people saying that they think it's going to be like the turtles all kind of go off in their own little directions, and we get like stories like them, like Don goes to like the nerdy anime clique in school, and we get some stories with him with them and stuff. I don't know if that's what's actually going to happen, but I think they're probably going to not do what ifs. I think they're probably going to try to build the universe, because it seems like they really want to do a lot with this Mutant Mayhem universe. So I think they're probably going to try to make everything canon in the show.
And I just don't know how I feel about that, because the thing is, if there's one thing we've seen from like Disney Plus, I feel like all of these series are kind of hurting movie franchises more than they're actually helping it. And that's why I feel like I wish they would go like a totally different route with the TV shows, even if they keep it like the same universe and design. I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just kind of worrisome, because especially if like the animation's not as good, if the voice work's not as good, it's going to turn people off really fast. And I feel like if the show gets canceled, that might jack up what happens with the movies down the road. And again, I'd be more excited to see what this was as a movie franchise as opposed to a TV franchise, I guess.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I think if anything, we've proven that making side companion shows to movie series that are mandatory viewing to understand the movies isn't a good marketing strategy. It kind of has proven to not be a good marketing strategy, and it's killed a lot of franchises, honestly. So I kind of wish they would just go the route that they used to go when we were kids. Like, Real Ghostbusters, the cartoon, was not canon with the movies at all.
Yeah.
But it kept us into the franchise until Ghostbusters 2 came out, and everyone went nuts for Ghostbusters 2 because the cartoon just made us love the franchise even more, even if it wasn't like mandatory viewing. Like adults could just watch the two Ghostbusters movies and, be as hyped for Ghostbusters 2 as the kids because they like the first one. But it just made it makes the franchise a bigger thing you can just get into as a whole. Like you can collect toys, you can watch the cartoon, you can get the food product and stuff. It gets you into it more, but it's not like mandatory. It doesn't feel like homework or anything. It's just like a nice little like side piece that you can enjoy if you want more of that franchise. Where I feel like when you make it required viewing, it just feels like homework, and you don't get those like one-off episode plots. Like you don't get like that. Instead, it's like this overarching plot you need to follow. And when you watch the movie, you better remember every damn episode you saw, because they're going to call back to characters who showed up in one episode. And yeah, I kind of hope they don't do that. And then again, because in the case of the Real Ghostbusters, it was so far removed from Ghostbusters, the movie, that we didn't care that they didn't sound like the actors from the movie and stuff. We weren't expecting them to, because this is just like a reimagining of Ghostbusters. This is just the cartoon version of Ghostbusters. Whereas if you make it where it's supposed to be a continuation of that world, the fact that the voice acting might be different and all that is going to stick out like a sore thumb, especially when you have such a huge star-studded cast. I doubt Paul Rudd is going to voice Mondo Gecko in every episode.
No, either that or those characters just aren't going to, like, maybe they'll have like one cameo appearance per season each, but I
Yeah.
can't see 10 different mutants being main characters in every episode of the show.
Yeah. I'm judging by how much they favored Mondo in the movie. I'm assuming he's one that they'll want to use frequently in the show, like more than the other mutants, because he seems like he's kind of like the main one of the
Yeah.
team of mutants.
I would say he was the breakout character of the mutant squad outside of Superfly himself.
Definitely. And I don't know if they're gonna, go back to Superfly in the show or if they're saving him for a sequel. I don't know if they're gonna, use Superfly for the TV show, if they're gonna bring him back in a sequel movie or something. We kind of know what's gonna happen in the next movie, so I don't know if there's gonna be room for Superfly, but we'll see. But yeah, I don't really know. I don't know. I mean, we're gonna have to watch it because we're gonna have to talk about the show on here.
Right.
But I would prefer if it was just kind of like its own thing and not attached to the movies. But I really think it's supposed to be attached to the movies.
Yeah, so not to get too far sidetracked though, but going back to your real Ghostbusters. So you talked about how the voice actors sounded different.
Yeah,
Ernie Hudson, the dude that plays
Winston. Yeah.
Winston, he auditioned for the cartoon character, and Arsenio Hall got it over him.
I heard that. Yeah, that's crazy.
That
I
is the
feel
most
bad for him.
insane thing I've ever heard. He didn't even get the job for his own character. Like, that just makes my brain hurt just to think about that. No, you don't sound enough like the guy we want. I'm literally the guy. What the fuck?
Yeah, it really doesn't make sense. I guess maybe like he sounds too like normal and human that like
Yeah.
it works for a live action.
Because he was the
show.
straight man. Like, that's what he was.
Yeah.
In the cartoon, you can't really have a straight man in a kid's show, like, unless they're the guy that's always getting picked on. They all have to be characters.
Yeah, so I think like maybe Arsenio Hall is very like animated and everything. Not like literally, he's not a cartoon character, but the way he has like a lot of energy to when he talks and stuff. So I can see why they went with him, but it is kind of sad. It's like, oh man, come on, Ernie Hudson can't play Ernie Hudson. Like what the hell? I met Ernie Hudson once actually at a convention. He was a real cool dude.
Yeah, he's a pretty big. He was like one of the first people that was like really big and being like making a profession out of being on the scene and just going to every convention and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's the complete opposite of Bill Murray. Like he
Right.
he owes everything to Ghostbusters. He's so proud to be a Ghostbuster. It was like Bill Murray wants to pretend it never happened. But
just kind of just finishing up on what we were talking about though. Even TMNT had that same thing as the Ghostbusters. Like, we had the cartoon, we had the movies that were totally different. We had Archie comics and Mirage comics going on at the same time. Like, there was a million different angles we were getting Turtles from, and as kids it never confused us. Like, we never had brand confusion. I feel like that's what everybody thinks will happen now. Like, I feel like companies just seem to think if everything isn't one cohesive unit, like, it's just gonna fail. But it seems like it's more diversifying your bets, like putting things in different alleys, because something could break out and be a lot better than everything else. But I don't know. I think there is room for a lot of different, like, I think we still could get an adult movie that's at least PG-13 and have it be totally separate from everything else. Like, I think you can have TV shows that are different from the movies, and I think that's actually good for the franchise, as opposed to holding it back. Like, I feel like they might think is what's happening. And the thing that I'm just afraid it's going to lead to, which where everything leads to, is just, well, we've talked about everything, so now we have to have a multiverse.
Yeah, they're probably getting there. Yeah, I mean, even again, not to keep going back to Ghostbusters, but I agree with what you're saying. I really think the MCU is what made everyone think everything has to be connected and everything has to be cohesive.
It changed everything. It really did. Like, love it or hate it. And now now that it's over and I don't love it as much as I used to, I am a little bit bitter towards that it really did just change the way everything was done.
Yeah, it was great when it was great. I loved it when it was great.
Yeah, exactly. It was so hype.
Yeah, like there was nothing like going to a new Marvel movie. Like,
and the one nice thing about that is I feel like it was one of the last times where everybody really was excited about the same thing. Like, I feel like it's been a long time since we've had something like that, where just even normies, everybody is just like really into something like that. Now everything has just been so diversified since COVID. I feel like
Yeah.
we haven't really had that like big coming together. I guess Barbie and Oppenheimer, but I didn't see either of those. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I didn't
Me
really
too.
feel that with those.
Yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from, and I think probably the closest thing to that was Top Gun Maverick.
And again, I
Uh,
didn't see that either. I'm not a Tom Cruise guy, so
but everyone, like even people who hate Tom Cruise and like even people who hate war movies and like it kind of like united the people of America. Like everyone was just like, all right, we're gonna put our differences aside and just say this movie is awesome. uh, but yeah, going back to Ghostbusters again, and just like the thing is, like, you think back to when we were little kids. Ghostbusters is older than us. It was already a thing that existed when we were born, not by much, but it was. And like, yeah, I saw the movies as a kid, and I was like a very, I'm talking little kid, like 2, 3 years old, 4 years old, and like, yeah, they were fun. Like, I laughed at the parts my parents basically told me I was supposed to laugh at and everything, and but like honestly, I think the cartoon made a lot of us kids like it more because I think if it was just the movies, a lot of kids would have been like, "Oh, that's cool," but I don't really get half of this movie and stuff. And it's like it's really
yeah.
not a kids movie. So um I don't think it would have made like the sensation where kids all wanted to be Ghostbusters and get the actual proton pack toy and all that stuff. Like, I think when you do have all these different versions, like a more kid friendly version, a more adult version, a crazier take on it, an alternate version, and all, like you just widen the possibility. You just strengthen the possibility of widening your audience and bringing more people into the fandom. And if you just make everything the same way, especially like Mutant Mayhem, it was pretty divisive amongst Turtles fans. I think like it's like kind of split. Half the people love it and half the people hate it. When you have half the people hating it, you don't want to put all your eggs in that basket. You want to kind of like be like, oh well, half the people didn't like that version, so let's give them another version and see if they like that. And like you said, when we were kids, like damn, they had all those different versions, and even the toy line didn't line
Yeah,
up
it was
like
still its
that.
own thing. It was like its fifth thing.
Yeah, it's like you get the explanation, the little portrait of the character on the back of the package is like, this isn't at all what he was in the
Right?
cartoon. What the hell is this? Like, yeah, so I think it would help if they did different versions, honestly. And I know I have said that myself that like, oh, they do too many things, it'll be brand confusion and all. And I think you're right, actually, though. I think like honestly, is hearing you say that, I'm like, actually, I think there's a lot of truth to what you said, honestly.
Like I just always do feel like the more options we have, the better. And people are supposedly Rise isn't dead either. That's what people keep saying, that Rise isn't dead, like that it's just on hiatus right now. So that would be a way to have, I mean, Rise for your young audience, have the Mutant Mayhem be for like your teenage audience, and then have something more adult, which I feel like is what the Ronin is going to end up being. Like I think we could get a regular Ninja Turtles movie because again, Scarlett Johansson's husband, I can never remember his damn name, is working on that other movie too. I still haven't heard anything else about that. But I feel like if we ever do get a truly like heavy R-rated movie, it's going to be in the Ronin verse.
I think so, because that's kind of, as much as we all love the Mirage comics and stuff, the Ronin's really the first time an R-rated Turtles thing, R-rated, it's a comic, it doesn't have R rating, but that's really the first time an R-rated Turtles thing has gotten that much mainstream attention. So I think they're gonna think like that's the one to do. Like that's
Yeah.
the one that's proven to be successful. And I know Mirage is huge, but it's still to date, even as much as everyone's talked about it and told people go back and read those comics, most people haven't. So it's still like the Ronin's really the big one. Image wasn't like a big mainstream thing, so it's really just the Ronin that's like really blown up, even way more than the regular IDW comics.
Yeah, and I think it helped it that during a very weak time of comic sales, a really weak time of comic sales, it was a really strong seller. So before, when the Turtles were hot, they were an indie hit. Now they were doing better than anything Marvel and DC were doing that month.
Yeah, and I mean, Maybe it helped that it came out during the pandemic when everyone was feeling like crap already. Like,
Yeah.
oh, great, the turtles are all in a crappy situation. Also, this is great. But yeah, well, I will see. I really do want to hear more about what he's apparently doing because I would love to know more about this movie. But there's very little coming out. There's that VFX guy, the VFX artist. I don't know if you've seen them. He's done a
Yeah.
couple like mock-up videos of like the CGI versions of the 1990 turtles like
Yeah,
fighting at
it,
one
it
time.
looks the animation is kind of like slow and choppy, but like as far as the visuals go, like that is exactly just make a
Yeah,
turtles movie where they look like that. That's exactly what we want. Like we're never gonna get the rubber suits again. It's never gonna
yeah,
happen. But you still give us that same aesthetic, and it looks good. It doesn't look like a CGI rendering of a rubber suit. It looked like a CGI rendering of what I think a real life Ninja Turtle looks like.
yeah. And the action is really good. It's just like it doesn't have all like the post-production speed up and all that like
Yeah.
fancy stuff. So it looks really good though. Sorry. Yeah, I think if you're gonna get a guy to be like the visual lead, like the artistic lead on your movie, get that guy. He understands what turtle fans want in a turtles movie, I think.
Yeah, and I don't think you could go wrong there. Like I don't see how it could do poorly, I guess. Like I just and
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong and just ignorant to think that because it's what I want, but I feel like this would be the one instance where you literally could give everybody what they wanted.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be the right way to go in. It's like, yeah, it definitely would be darker. I think it should be darker. Um, but still just retain enough of that like attitude of like the OG, like not OG turtles, but like the 1990 turtles where they're still a little goofy and stuff to get kids into it. I think that would be the perfect blend. But do like the 1990 movie, like maybe a little more mature than the mood of the 1990 movie or something. But
And see, I feel like the Batman versus TMNT movie kind of splits that difference really well because like just because I want it R-rated doesn't mean I need my turtles telling each other to fuck off or anything like that. I really just want heavier violence is really what I want. Like I want to see them stab people and I want to see them bleed. Like that's just all I really want. And I feel like the Batman one did it really well because again, like people get killed and like there's actually like good violence in there, but it's still kind of kiddie and cartoony as well. Like I feel like it's a really good balance. And I think that's one thing DC does really well is make good animated movies that they don't get enough credit for.
yeah, for sure. I mean, when it comes to just like not to get too off topic, I'll jump back to what I want to say in a second. But just when it comes to like the whole history of DC animation, it's like nothing translates from cartoon to animation as well as DC stuff. Like you just think Batman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, and stuff. They had so many freaking great shows. So, but yeah, I guess just to get back to the toys real quick. There's still some other stuff to say. We were talking about what we think NECA might announce or show off or whatever, but there is stuff we know that's coming out now, and NECA is supposedly shipping the Party Wagon now, the vehicle we named our whole podcast after,
Right.
and
Yeah.
neither one of
So
us is buying it.
yeah.
Or
So
wait,
they're
did you buy it?
go ahead. Yeah, I did end up going in
Oh,
on it.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so they started sending out. I didn't even check to see if I got the notification, but it was basically like, "All right, your address is locked in. You can't change it now. Sorry." So it sounds like it really is about to start rolling out here soon.
All right, cool. You'll have to tell me all about that on the podcast when you get it because I'm not getting one. But I'm very interested how it is like QC wise and everything. Like I'm very interested in like what it's actually like. And I can watch, Pixel Dan review it and stuff too, but I can actually ask you about things and stuff. So it's like
Yeah, I'm
I
not
can
friends with
actually,
anybody from NECA, so if something sucks, I'll let you know about it. So
yeah, I mean, well, if you're friends with people at Deco, they would just tell you everything about it. It's great. So
right. Yeah, so I am
but
pretty excited. It's one of those things where I'm not going to get too excited until I do have it. I want to make sure nothing is broken. Like again, I've had very good luck with NECA stuff. I don't have any broken figures or anything, but this is just like been a long time coming. It's a big thing. Big things in the mail just always kind of make me nervous. So yeah, I'll just when I get it here and it's all in one piece and nothing's broken, that's when I really get excited. But this really is like, I mean, my big thing, because I didn't end up going in on the sewer layer, and if I don't get the first piece, I'm not going to get anything else. I'm definitely not going to get the Super 7 party wagon. Like, there's no way I'm going to pay 500 bones for that. So this is, I feel like, the one big Turtles thing that I'm going to get for all of like the modern stuff anyway.
Yeah, that's a good. I think that's a good choice. I think it's a much better value than like the sewer layer and everything. Like, I think for what you're getting, I think it's way better for the money.
And I just think about it like, okay, if you were just looking at the sewer layer by itself and you were just looking at the party wagon by itself, like the party wagon is just fun looking by itself. An empty living room by itself isn't that fun. You know what I mean? So I feel like just as things go, the party wagon is just a much funner thing.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, you can play with it. Like, it's cool. I don't get me wrong. I do think the sewer layer looks really cool, and I would have like loved to have like a big ass sewer layer like that as a kid.
$200, I would have got it.
It's essentially like it's a dollhouse. It's essentially like a glorified dollhouse, and it's not even a full dollhouse. It's like one floor of a dollhouse.
Yeah.
So it's cool, but yeah, I can easily pass on it. If like again, if it was like 150, I'd buy it, but 300 is just too much. But yeah, Super 7's supposed to finally start shipping stuff out next month. We're supposed to get Wave 8. Yeah, Wave 8 next month.
7 ain't coming out till next April, so
yeah. Oh,
I heard never
maybe,
hitting that gorilla.
I think it's next summer now. I think actually is what it's.
Oh, was it?
I could be wrong, but I think it's like June or July.
Okay, yeah.
It's never coming out. But yeah, we're supposed to get this now, and then in December, I think we're supposed to get Wave 9.
I thought everything other than Wave 8 was pushed back till next year now.
It might be. It might be like January or February.
Yeah, I thought that the Slash, which the Slash is supposed to be shipping now too. So they've gotten 3 releases of glow in the darks out in between these waves that they haven't got out. But 8 is the only wave that's scheduled out this entire year. And again, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still not even expecting them to come out next month, honestly.
Which is weird because they just showed them off at Comic-Con. So it seems like if they had like, I mean, what looked like finished samples and everything, that they'd be about ready to go. Like I can't believe they didn't have them out the next month.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's what they did with Wave 5. They showed it off last year, not this past.
I guess you're right. Yeah, it didn't ship till October because it happened literally right before I went on vacation. Everything came out, and I was like, well, I spent too much money on vacation, so.
I hate when they push everything out in October, honestly, because October is probably my biggest spending month of the year because I go to all these events like Sleepy Hollow and all these haunted houses and shit. And it's like I do so much stuff for Halloween that like it's probably it's easily my biggest spending month of the year. So I kind of hate how like everyone just drops all these figures at like September and October. It's like fucking stop. You had all year, motherfucker. Why did you wait for this 1 month? Like at least just wait 2 months. I'll buy it in December. Fuck. Like but yeah, I didn't see I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet, but you put up a video recently talking about the big question of why does Super 7 charge so much more for glow in the dark when other toy companies don't charge any additional cost.
Yeah, so even after I posted that too, I had some people come on and be like, yeah, Bobby Valla has those like limited edition, this whatever exclusive it's like a figure that has like bees wings basically, and it has tons of glow in the dark on it, and that figure doesn't cost any more than the regular one. And the Origins figures that are glow in the dark are actually cheaper than regular release figures, which is even more insane. So
that's so weird.
I don't want to call anybody from Super 7 a liar, but it just seems like they just decided to arbitrarily raise prices when nobody else seemed to need to be able to do that.
It's really fishy, especially how much they raised it too. And it's like one
$10 a figure, that's almost a 20% price increase. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's big when you think about it at the end of the day.
But meanwhile, Mattel is dropping the price for glow in the dark. So it's like you wouldn't lie to charge less. So the only person who could be lying here is the one who's charging more. And again, I'm not like calling out Brian Flynn or anything. Like it's okay. You got to do what you got to do. I know you got to make your money, but like I don't know. I can't help but like just let people shit on Super 7. I'm not going to go in there and fight their battle for them because it's like I don't really know how I'm supposed to defend you.
And that's the thing, man. It's just like that one friend that's just fucked up so many times and everybody always wants to kick their ass. And at one point it's like, dude, I'm not going to get my ass kicked for you anymore. Like, this is you, man. Stop making stupid decisions. But like, I was kind of thinking about it the other day. I feel like this is going to sound really ridiculous. Like, they're kind of like a swarm of like those moths that like eat trees, like a gypsy moth, and they kind of just move from fandom to fandom, and they get out this first wave, and everybody's so stoked on it, and they're like, all right, here's 4 more waves you can pre-order, and then they go silent, and then they move on to their next fandom. Like G.I. Joe kind of had their moment not too long ago where they finally got wave 1 out, and everybody was stoked on those figures. I'm like, just wait, guys, it's coming. And then Power Rangers, everybody wasn't. I mean, they definitely had issues with the Green Ranger figure and stuff, but like there seem to be some people that are pretty bummed that some of those figures didn't get made that they were supposed to get made. And just it seems like they have no problem getting the first wave out, but then after that, everything just slows down and it just turns into we have 1 or 2 waves out and then we have 3 more on pre-order.
Yeah, which actually I have to say I was this close to buying that Goldar figure. I thought that Goldar figure looked awesome, but yeah, they do seem to, even Thundercats, like they don't even really seem to be like, they were like constantly showing off and releasing more Thundercat stuff for years. And I haven't been following it exactly, but I feel like they've slowed down like crazy with Thundercats.
Because I think they're in the same boat as TMNT. I think they've both gotten 6 waves out, if I'm not mistaken. And then they both have 4 in the hole, and they've been stuck between 6 and 7. I think they're literally like, it was about the same pace that they're stuck on.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Now they're moving on to Toxic Crusaders. I mean, they basically already did that to Disney. They got what 2 of those waves out, and then they just basically killed the line.
Yeah. I mean, what's been the drop since I remember when the Robin Hood wave came out? What came out after that?
Nothing. It was Robin Hood, Alice. Was that Mad Hatter? I think Mad Hatter was in that wave. And then I think the hippo from Fantasia.
Yeah.
I think that was it. They released the really big version of Ben Alligator from Fantasia, the alligator guy, but they didn't even release the actual wave he's in, like the regular Ultimates.
Did they ever get out the King John figure?
Yeah, he was in the first wave.
Okay, he was. Okay.
The third wave was supposed to be Stitch, Big Bad Wolf, Queen of Hearts, I believe, and I think Ben Alligator. I think those 4 were supposed to be wave 3, and they've never come out, as far as I know. And then wave 4 was supposed to be Nightmare Before Christmas. Those have been pushed back, and wave 5 was that Rescuers thing, and I've already said what I think about that.
I got to ask anyway. It's gone.
Yeah. Yes, they basically just axed that line. They dove into it so hard. They announced a bunch of lines, a bunch of waves. They released a couple of them. They made some gigantic, stupid figures that are like 2 feet tall, and then they just moved on to the next franchise. I don't know why they do that, but your analogy is pretty good. They are like lantern flies or something.
So I also counted it up the other day. They are over 100 IPs deep right now. They have over 100 IPs. That is insane. I don't even know if I could think of 100 IPs. You know what I mean? Like, that's so many things.
That is. And how much of it have they actually released? Like 15 IPs? Like,
and again, some of it's for just for reaction and other crap, but still, like, I mean, that's the whole other side of this. Like, we just think about everything that's going on with Ultimates, and they're always pushing out reaction figures too.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know, man. It's a weird company. Like, and they just, yeah, I know. We seem like we just do this every week now. We just end up talking about how bummed we are about Super 7, but I just wish I could go back to a year and a half ago when I was so in love with them, and I just had my first 4 waves of Turtles figures, and I was like, this is the best company ever.
And I know once I get wave 8, I'm gonna be thinking that for a little while. So I'll be like, man, they're so great.
But that's the thing. What if the figures suck? We don't even know. What if we just waited a whole year and we get some like again, the worst fear that I have is the Samurai Leo figure that's just like shaky. Like that
Yeah.
is the one figure that just drives me nuts. Like that is legitimately a broken figure.
Yeah, I mean mine's literally broken because the hand broke and like the wrist broke and the pegs stuck in the hole and everything. So I had to super glue it back on. Now he doesn't have an articulated wrist. But I had a lot of problems with that, the wiggly hips, the broken hand that came out of the package. There was just a lot of problems with him. Like he just I don't know. It was like any QC issue you could have with an action figure other than bad paint, he had.
Yeah.
Um,
And I know that recently happened. I think maybe the Green Ranger figure that came out for the Power Rangers was the same situation. He had that like loose, shaky torso that it's a bummer, man. You pay $55 for a figure, you don't want something like that to happen. You never want something like
yeah.
that to happen, but it hurts even more when you're paying probably too much money than you should be paying for action figures.
Yeah, for something that price, it shouldn't have any silly QC issues like that. Like when it has more QC issues than a fucking best action, like
Yeah.
loyal subjects figure, it's like that's a problem because this thing's $35 more expensive. So like,
Which they just put out their IDW shredder. I think that just went out. That looks like a pretty good figure. Again, I'm not sure about how I feel about the scale with everything, but the paint on it looks pretty good. Like the purple's really purple, the red's really red. Like I don't know, they're getting a little bit better with every single release. It seems like sculpt wise and paint wise, anyway.
that's good. Yeah, I mean, someone's got to become the new number two, I guess. It's not Super 7 anymore. So, I mean, most people would probably argue it never was. Most people would probably say, oh, Mezco is like, number one or number two. But, for in my line of vision, Super 7 was always number two next to NECA. But I don't know if I can keep saying that. But I'm still excited. I'm still holding out for hope. They did announce, though, how they're going to do the 2003 Turtles. And we were kind of like, wondering how they were going to do them. We're like, oh, maybe they'll put like one 2003 figure a wave and the rest will be Playmates. But apparently they're going to do a wave of 2003, then a wave of Playmates, then a wave of 2003. So I believe wave 11 is 100% guaranteed to be all 2003, which I think is a mistake for the brand personally.
Well, I mean, just think about how long then that means it's going to be wave 12. At best, these figures wouldn't be out till 2026. At best, that's just so long without these figures now. And also it just drives me nuts because I feel like this next wave was going to be it was going to be a measuring stick of what the line was going to be like going forward. Like we were going to get our redone Rat King and we were going to see if they actually could give us one they wanted. So yeah, that's a big bump. I'm happy for anybody that wants the 2003 Turtles. Like I'll say that first and foremost. Like it's cool that somebody else is getting what they wanted. Just because I'm not getting what I want, I'm not gonna be like, oh fuck them, they're doing something else. Like I don't really care that much. It's just a bummer to me as somebody that wants regular 87 style or 88 style Playmates figures.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of people who want 2003 figures, but I do think this line already established what it is.
Yeah.
And the people who want this line want their childhood nostalgia just plussed. And you're not going to probably get most of the same people who are buying these figures buying the 2003 ones. And it's hard to bring new people on board with this stuff because like it's a huge investment and now there's so much dirt on Super 7. Like if someone just wants to start collecting a Super 7 line, they might watch some videos about it. They might watch our podcast and they just hear nothing but nightmares. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's a good move. I mean, the line's already in danger of dying. I think throwing a big wrench in there like that, big ass freaking monkey wrench in there is just like you could just kill the whole line doing that. And I hope not. I hope the 2003 people really come in full effect and they really get what they want. But yeah, like you said, we had to wait so long on just to see that redesigned Rat King. Like, I just want to know what you're going to do with him. I want to know if he's actually Playmates Rat King or if he's another weird ass new idea. So, like, we had to wait like probably a year and a half before we even figure out what the hell that Rat King's going to look like.
Yeah. Because if they're going to show a 2003 wave next, and we don't get another wave until March of next year after wave 8, when are they going to show 5 waves out now? Are they going to start going to that where they're going to have 5 waves shown?
I don't know. They're going to have to, I guess, if they want to keep people excited for the product, because it's been so freaking long now. So many of these figures we've known about for like well over a year now. We've just been waiting
it's
for them.
well over. When did Wave 7 get announced? That was when Wave we
2
got
years ago.
At least, because it was announced before we got Wave. Okay, maybe it was announced right after we got Wave 4. So that would have been what, 2021, 2022?
I think I want to say 2021. I want to say, because
so I think it's been well over 2 years since Wave 7 got shown, and it'll be probably closer to 3 before it actually comes out.
Like, that's ridiculous. I don't know. Like,
I just don't understand how it can get pushed back past 3 other waves. Like, that's just what I don't understand. Like, what went so astronomically wrong where it got delayed that far? What could have possibly happened?
You know what I don't like also about it? It just sounds comedic at this point, but you know what else I don't like about Super 7? They don't tell us the truth. Like, I know, like, yeah, they're not our buddies. They don't have to tell us the truth. It's all, it's all business, but I feel like you would get a much stronger fan base if you just came out honestly and told us, look, this wave is pushed back because we're having trouble with this figure, or like we're having trouble tooling this figure. We're having trouble, getting this figure we envisioned for this price. We're having trouble working out legalities or something. Like, just tell us what the hell the problem is. Because now it's like, we're just thinking, what is the deal with Wave 7? Like, why the fuck is it like, 3 waves down? Like, it's not Wave 7 anymore. It's Wave 9. So, like, it's just like, just tell us what the hell is going on so we know what the issue is. And they never do. So,
and that's why, like, honestly, I would never even want to do like an interview with a company like this, because people interview them. Why doesn't anybody ask them that question? Like, what the hell is the deal with Wave 7? Why would nobody ask that? You know what I mean? Unless they clearly don't want to talk about it. Why don't you want to talk about it?
For all we know, they're like, before the interview start, when they're just like talking to them, like in the chat, the guys from Super 7 might just say straight up, like, don't ask us about this. Don't ask us about that.
I guarantee they do.
Yeah. There's probably a whole list of shit you're not allowed to say to them. So, yeah, I don't know. I swear I'm not trying to just crap on Super 7. This is like becoming an every podcast topic now. It's like, oh, here's our segment. Let's shit on Super 7. Like, I'm not trying to do that.
Just every week we go without getting that Super 7 wave. Like, again, in the I've enjoyed the glow in the dark figures, but I know you don't give a shit about them. So it's just like, if there wasn't glow in the dark figures, we'd have no releases this year up to this point.
Yeah, almost an entire year of not a single figure. It's an entire year of not a single new figure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always do forget about reaction. Like, they actually are better about getting reaction out than they are with Ultimates, but it's like, reaction's so overpriced. $20 for those. The price of a loyal subjects figure for a reaction figure is nuts.
Just 5 POA, and I mean, some of them just look terrible. Like, some of them look okay, but I mean, still not $20 worth. But some of them, like the live action human characters, it's like, this is not anything. This looks like nobody.
Their Toxic Avenger one, I remember, was so bad looking. It was just like this. It looked like someone just molded a log of shit into a human form. It's like, it looked terrible. And I feel like they do push the reaction more. They do release it more. They do work on it more, because it's a better money making layout for them. It's like, okay, we way less parts, way less effort. We can just put out tons of them, and it takes us almost no work at all. And we're making massive profits on it. Whereas like Ultimates, a lot of people probably aren't collecting these Ultimates. So it's like a ton of work to sculpt those Ultimates figures. So it just seems like, okay, we do the reaction stuff because it's easy money. It just seems like they wear their business flaws on their sleeve. And, Yeah, I don't know. The reactions, like realistically, anyone who buys reaction is buying it for the complete package, the artwork on the package and stuff. Like, you don't take them out of the packages because they're not going to be fun toys to play with and stuff. And you can't even, because it's like, okay, they are like simple little old Star Wars style Kenner figures, but those, if you beat them up and bashed them up back in 1981, okay, you just go to Toys R Us and buy the rest of them back for $2 a piece. Whereas, like, you're not going to spend $20 if you damage your reaction foot soldier. Like, it's just, sorry, Super 7. Sorry if you ever happen to watch this podcast. Nothing against you. I just don't like the way you do most things.
This is April O'Neil, Channel 6 News, and you're watching the Party Wagon Podcast.
So as for our 10th episode, where we did the top 10 episodes of the 87 cartoon, every 10 episodes, we're going to do a top 10. So this is episode 20. So we're doing a top 10 this time. And our idea this time is top 10 figures we wish were in the vintage Playmates action figure line. So the rules didn't necessarily say we could only do characters who existed and were possible candidates at the time, but that's basically what I think both of us did. So
yeah, I did it just because I knew you were going to do that, so I didn't want to make it like modern characters. If I could go back in time, throw them into that line. So every pick that I had was realistic for the time of the original line.
Yeah, same here. Every single one I picked, it was a possibility back in the 80s and early 90s. So for me personally, I for some reason went the extra mile and drew like a hypothetical action figure of every single one I picked.
Because you have the ability to do that to where most humans don't. So
that was not a requirement though. So I didn't like tell Eric, like, oh, you better learn how to draw because you got to do that. So.
Yeah, I never would have been able to happen. I don't even understand how you draw on a computer to begin with. So yeah.
Oh, I use a tablet personally, but all right. I guess without any further ado, I'll get into it. I'll have some honorable mentions to go over before my final one. But I guess I'll kick things off. Mine are in no particular order. This isn't like my least desired to my most desired. They're just randomly spread across here. But it's
okay. I actually did like I ordered them. Mine could vary a little bit, but like my top 3 or 4 are probably like a hard top 3 or 4.
Okay. Maybe when I'm done, I can like think of how I would rank mine. But I guess like I went my going the extra mile was drawing. Your going the extra mile was actually following the rules of a top 10. So these are my top 10. They're just not in any order. So I'll start with my first one. Lieutenant Granitor. One of the weirdest omissions from the action figure line, because I mean, when you watch the early seasons of the cartoon show, he's really just as big as General Trag. He's introduced as being just as big as General Trag. He's in the arcade game. Like, it was just so weird to me that they never ever made a figure of him. Even later on, when they were doing like a lot of the Toon characters, they missed, like the Neutrinos and the Channel 6 News guys. Like, I can't believe Granitor was never an option.
Yeah, so for this countdown, if we have any doubles on the list, which I'm sure we're going to have a lot of, we'll just start throwing it in on the first one, and then we'll kind of touch to it when I get to mine, because we might as well just talk about it right now. But this guy is absolutely going to show up on my list as well. This is exactly one of the biggest omissions that I could think of from the original line. Like, I feel like it's not quite a Bebop and Rocksteady importance, but they're the second villain pair that's really introduced in the cartoon, and it seems like right off the bat they really were trying to hit a lot of season 1 stuff. So it's weird that they didn't throw in a Granitor. Maybe they did have plans for one, and then the lines got cut down, or they wanted to go a different route for wave 2. But yeah, he's definitely one that I would want very badly as well. And your renderings look amazing. Like, I am so excited to see all of these. Like, I just can't believe how good this looks. That's like exactly the kind of tune that I would want. If just for going with like I guess not, I don't know if symmetry is the right word, but I'd make him like gross and weird how Trag was too, with like all the ridiculous bugs and crap all over him.
Yeah. Yeah, I put like, I guess for each one, I'll have to go over like what I did, I guess, for my picture. For people just listening to this part's going to make no sense. But, since I put like, centipedes and scorpions and frogs and stuff all over his body because, Trag had that. And Trag had like little, in the action figure, had like little volcanic like holes on him with like red kind of pouring out. So instead of doing that, I put like crystals kind of growing on his body in places too. So he has these like pink and green crystals all over him. Because I wanted to make him like similar to the Trag figure, but still his own thing. And yeah, I came up with the color scheme based on like how slate panels you used as like a walkway would be colored.
Yeah, so it's definitely colors that I would think of. And I like how you use like the blue is the accent color for like his superhero underwear, his one glove and his boots and his helmet.
Yeah, I tried to like go heavy on the asymmetry because that was very big in the action figure line, and obviously I came up with like silly weapons for them to use and everything. But yeah, this guy should have been in the line. I think like I didn't really notice it as a kid that he was missing, to be honest. But when I got older, I remember being like, when I was pretty young, I was like early 20s when I just started getting back into Ninja Turtles. I remember like watching the show and being like, oh yeah, why the heck didn't this guy have an action figure? Like some of the weirdest characters got action figures and they never made Lieutenant Granitor, and it makes no sense to me.
No, definitely one that I feel like a lot of people would have in their top 10.
Yeah, I would say he's probably close to being my number one if I had to choose one.
He's pretty high up there for me. All right, so my number 10 figure, and this is like kind of my only like bullshit answer kind of cheat for this scenario. It's kind of a figure that was made but never got made. So my number 10 figure is the Jim Lee Leonardo. I feel like that's one figure that I really wish they completed that set of the Turtles. I have Mikey and Raph on card. I still don't have the Donatello just because once I get the Donatello, then it really will bum me out that there's no Leo to go with it. But yeah, that's the only figure that never got made that I really, really do wish did get made.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's because they omitted Turtles from like little subsets they did pretty frequently, but the Jim Lee ones were so distinct and so their own thing. They're really complete reimaginings of the characters that
yeah,
not getting all four of them really feels like a slap in the face.
Yeah, and it's just weird because they put one random character that's I can't remember what is the red guy. I can't even think of what the hell his name is, but he's not even like a very major player or anything. He's in a couple issues, then he ends up being in this like spin-off thing of I think Freak Force is what it is. So he's not even that main of a character, and they definitely could have used that slot for Leo, but I guess it technically was a Savage Dragon line and it just had these turtle figures in it, even though it was a Turtles line. Like I'll never understand what this really was because it was marketed as Savage Dragon, but the Jim Lee figures were inside of it as well. I don't know. It's always confusing me, but I just wish they made that Jim Lee Leo.
Yeah, it is weird because definitely the packaging is all Savage Dragon and stuff, but it is Playmates also. So it's like I'm not too knowledgeable of Savage Dragon. I don't feel like there was a running Savage Dragon toy line. I think it was just those ones and the Jim Lee Turtles, and that was it. Like so.
Yeah, it was. They basically got that wave with the Playmates because they actually had Playmates was making the Wildcats figures around the same time too. So I feel like they got a couple of the bigger Image IPs that Todd McFarlane had already started making his own toys. I think it was Todd Toys at the time before it became McFarlane Toys. And after that, Savage Dragon would get a figure here and there made by McFarlane, but he has never had his own line. And even then, it was more kind of a pseudo line inside the TMNT line because he had crossed over with the Turtles when they hit Image as well. So there's kind of that relationship there too.
Yeah. It kind of just stands now as like this weird little oddity within the original Playmates line that just represents the fact that Turtles were once with Image. Like Image was once making Turtles comics.
Yeah.
All right. So again, this is in no real order, but next we have Jaguar from the Archie comics. He's not a character I've ever read any of his comics for. I have the NECA figure and stuff, but I know he's one of the main Mutanimals. I do think it's kind of sucks that we didn't get all the Mutanimals in the original toy line. I think that's definitely something they should have tried to do because we had so many of them. And I just think he translates perfectly to, an action figure. He's just like some of those main Archie mutant characters were just so ripe for being action figures in that toy line. And they didn't do a lot of them, honestly.
So it's kind of surprising they didn't, because they are just all very like toyetic characters. Like, this figure looks awesome. This isn't even one that's in my top 10, but now I really want this figure. So he kind of almost like feels like he'd fit in really well with like Masters of the Universe too. Like, he's like super jacked, like really looks like he's been hitting the gym hard. Like, I really like this rendering a lot. And for me, I know I saw Archie comics, but I never knew what they were. So I never really read any of them or anything. So I never even knew about the Mutanimals till I was older. I didn't know that that's where like Mondo, because did Mondo actually appear in Archie before he appeared on the cartoon?
I can't say for sure, actually. I don't know what came first, the toy, the comics, or the cartoon. But I think it was like a triple threat, like all somewhat around the same time. But
sure, one of you smart people have an answer for us there. But yeah, this is definitely a cool looking figure for sure.
Yeah, like again, he's not like, a character who's near and dear to my heart, but I just think like I want good figures. Most of the figures I got in that vintage line as a kid were things I had never heard of before. Some of them were just brand new characters. So if they had just given me like more of these Archie characters, I would have been so cool with it. I would have been like, oh, cool, New Mutants. So
and it's kind of weird that we got King Lionheart, who's a lion, but there is like no tiger or cheetah character in the line at all.
Yeah, there isn't. There's really just King Lionheart is the only. Well, Scratch is the only other cat we ever got.
He's a cat, but
yeah, we never got like, you'd think like they did Tiger Claw eventually in the 2012 cartoon, and he got a figure, but it's weird they never did that, because even though I have said on multiple occasions that like I think cat characters are kind of overdone and like dog characters are kind of overdone, I still think like they're some of the most popular animals on the planet. Why would you not make more of them?
Right.
So, it's very weird. But yeah, that's I can't really say my number 9. That's just my next pick.
All right, so my number 9 is Tora from the second video game on NES. So this character was like my enigma is not the right word. I don't know what I want to use. It has the most mystery wrapped around it to me, or the most mystery wrapped around it for me when I was a kid. I had no idea who this character was, no idea where he came from, and nobody could give me any answers on him whatsoever. And as an adult, you realize he was just made. I don't think, was he ever in Archie or anything, or was he just made for the video game?
He was just made for the video game.
Yeah, so basically I think he's a polar bear. Sometimes I feel like people try to say he's an Arctic wolf, but I always saw him as a polar bear with like a leather jacket, and he basically just chucked giant ice boulders at you.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. I always thought of him as a polar bear because he has like the rounded ears also, like a polar bear would have. I always called him a polar bear as a kid, but I was the same way, honestly. Like, I wanted to know who he was so badly as a kid, because like I didn't get as a kid that like, I guess Konami just made him up or whatever, but he looked so right at home in the world of 90s TMNT that it just like I wanted a figure of that guy so badly when I was a kid.
Yeah, and again, you never saw him anywhere else. You didn't know where he came from, and it's just weird that I'm pretty sure he's the only character in, I guess, in the Tournament Fighters. No, because Armagon was, I guess they made up like the female characters made up in that one, the not Karai figure.
Arguable, because she was originally going to be Mitsu from the third movie. Okay. And then they changed her because either the third movie was too unpopular or they just realized this character had nothing to do with Mitsu. So,
okay. And then Armagon was actually in Archie.
Yeah, he's Archie. Sisyphus, I think his name is. The Genesis version has like a Hercules beetle called Sisyphus.
Okay, gotcha.
And he was made up for the game.
Okay.
But
so it's really weird that very rarely they do go to these invented characters for the games when there's just so many characters they could have thrown in.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah, for sure. I think for some reason Tora is one that's just stood out to a lot of people from our generation because he did look like an action figure. He did look like he belonged in Turtles, and he came somewhat early in the game, like earlier than later. So
It was a level I could get to regularly. I know that.
yeah, he's usually like about like the point that's almost where most people died. Like,
Yeah.
I think I remember like at first my brother and I had the most trouble getting past him, and eventually finally my brother beat him, and then we started seeing more of the game, and then he started the hang of it, and then he started beating it. But I never did. I don't think I ever got past Tora as a kid. My number 3 is kind of a cheat because it's 2 characters in one, but the remaining Punk Frogs, Attila the Frog and Rasputin the Mad Frog. These are the only ones that actually I didn't draw all the accessories I wanted them to come with because I just couldn't fit them on here. So I only drew like 2 accessories, 1 accessory for each of them, but I listed what their accessories would be. But yeah, I can't believe we never got the others. I mean, I could kind of believe it because I know they thought that would be redundant, but I think with how much variety there was between Genghis and Napoleon in the toy line, I just imagined that like there would be that much variety between all of the frogs. So I felt like they wouldn't be redundant, especially in a line where we've gotten 5 million of the same Ninja Turtles like over and over again. So I think a lot of kids our age were kind of bummed out that they never got to complete the Punk Frogs. And they definitely be a little lower on my list because they're just more frogs dressed like California stoners. But I don't know. I think they're kind of necessary. It was nice in NECA when we were finally able to finish that quartet.
So, funny enough, these guys are both going to appear later on my list, and they're both appearing as the same number as well. I doubled them up as well because I feel like that's what it was. I don't feel like I could have gave 2 spots to these 2, but together, like that's what you're missing because you wouldn't want one of these without the 4th. Again, if they gave us another 3 without 4, that just was worse than 2 for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm very surprised as well because I don't know what it is, but you get pairs, but you don't get a lot of like 4-person teams and toy lines and stuff like that. So whenever you can get another group of 4 to go along with your 4 turtles, like that is one of my other favorite sets. I wish the Punk Frogs are honestly ones that I wish NECA would redo because I feel like especially a couple of mine have like weird legs kind of where I can't really get them to stand right. But yeah, like the Punk Frogs, I feel like they appeared very early. Everybody knew who they were. And it's just cool that we have this, like, again, not even Bizarro World other turtles, but like just that other like foursome that can go along with your turtles. And in my head, this is like one of the few ones where I kind of would have pictured what they would have been. I definitely would have had one of them be like a giant bullfrog, and I would have had him be a lot more like Jack than the other ones too. That's kind of, I feel like, what you did here with that one.
Yeah, Attila, I made him. I think that's called a horned frog. What I based him on. But yeah, I wanted one to be like bigger and kind of like beefier. I even gave him a little bit of a gut because it's I wanted Napoleon.
Is it Napoleon a horned frog?
I think he's a leaf frog.
Oh, okay. I always thought he was a horned frog and just not painted well. I didn't know that.
I believe he's a leaf frog.
Okay.
Attila, I made a horned frog, and then Rasputin, I made a red-eyed tree frog. The red-eyed tree frogs famously like have orange hands. I gave him yellow hands, so I didn't want to have like too much contrasting random colors to break up the color scheme. But yeah, they're probably most famous for being the logo character of like the Rainforest Cafe. But yeah, they don't need to look like this. This is what I came up with for them, and I gave Attila a little pack-in buddy, party wog, who's like a little pollywog guy. I just made that up. Yeah, I think most people would agree that we should have got him. And I have seen a lot of fans hated that Napoleon looked different from Genghis, and they wanted just 4 Genghises in different colors. But
yeah,
I personally always wanted them to be more like this and just look like crazy, wacky designs and just like a bunch of variety between all 4 of them.
Yeah, and especially after doing the Napoleon, like just because he was so much different than Genghis was, I feel like you had to go the different route once it had been shown. Like I feel like if I never would have saw, and I do like those customs. Whenever I've seen like the 4 Napoleons that are all just painted different, they do look really cool. But just knowing we have that, or sorry, the Genghis's, yeah. Just knowing we have that Apollyon that's different, I would want to go this route where all 4 of the frogs were different frogs for the line, because again, that's what's fun about Playmates, is it mixes it up, it puts twists on things, and it just makes things even more mutiny than the cartoon did.
Well, not mutiny is something else, but
mutant like.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's a common pick that would be on everyone's list our age.
Yeah.
But what's your number 3?
All right. Well, actually, my number 8 is Tatsu, who we've never gotten in any line ever for anything. So, I mean, and again, I have a couple. He's one of my 2 characters on here that I feel like would actually be more boring of Playmates figures. But as a kid, I really liked my movie star turtles. And I never even had a super shredder or anything. But I don't know. I just feel like when I played with my other friends' turtles that had all the bad guys and stuff, there was never a Tatsu. I was always bummed about that. I always wanted to do the thing with my figures where they did the 4-shell crush, and I did it with other figures, but I really would have loved to do that with a Tatsu figure. And it's just another one that's just omitted, but we understand why. The actor just never wanted his likeness given away or anything like that, which, again, respect to him for not caring about money. That's, I mean,
yeah,
more, I don't know what I want to say, dignified than I would ever be if anybody wanted to make an action figure of me. But yeah, number 8, Tatsu.
I can definitely understand. I mean, hell yeah, I'd be so on board. I'd probably draw a mock-up of what my action figure should look like and give it to them. But yeah, he's definitely like the big glaring omission from the movie series, because I think him and Casey are the 2 biggest glaring omissions from the movie star series. But I think Tatsu stands out even more because we did technically still have a Casey Jones figure, but we never had a figure of Tatsu. And I think that's one of those ones people probably had to grab figures from other toy lines they had and pretend it was Tatsu, like Jitsu from Masters of the Universe or something, and be like, okay, it's Tatsu, because everyone just wanted him, and for some reason we didn't get him. So definitely a weird omission for sure. And again, now that I've grown up, I realize why. But as a kid, I didn't understand why he didn't have a figure. All right, is that all you had to say about Tatsu?
Yeah. I'm more excited to see your stuff anyway. So
all right, well, my next one's not going to be as interesting because it's Tora.
Oh, nice. Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted him to look like, dude. He's got the one boot off. This is amazing.
I gave him I didn't give him an ice boulder to throw, because that would probably require a weird play feature where his arm would have to toss it and stuff. But I gave him one of the little robotic snowmen things from his level. I kind of redesigned how it looks and stuff. I gave him a snow cannon because he has the machine that makes the whole world snowy when you fight him and stuff. But yeah, and there's not much more to say about Tora. We already talked about him, but I just really wanted this figure as a kid so badly.
Yeah, this looks amazing, man. That's exactly what I envisioned he would look like in my head.
Well, I'm glad I got it then.
And also he made his little buddy's a little snowman.
It's like a robot underneath a snowman.
Yeah, this is freaking awesome, man. We got to figure out a way to, I don't know, link these to something. These renders are amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to find some way to do it. So who's your number 7?
So my number 7 is, and you actually just mentioned this, and again, another one that would be more of a boring Playmates figure, but it would be a movie version of Casey, and I would want it to be from the first movie, even though they didn't make first movie figures, but I would like that to go in the movie star line. And again, that was my favorite version of Casey as a kid. The cartoon one was a little off-putting to me. I'm like, why is Casey such a jerk to the turtles? He's supposed to be their friends. Why is he acting like that? And I liked how the movie one was always homies with them. So that's the figure that I wanted to have, because I always used, again, I didn't have the original Casey, but my buddy did. And that's the way I always wanted him to be, is more the turtles homie and not just this psycho that shows up and jacks up jaywalkers.
Scumball. Yeah, I think for a lot of us, Casey was kind of the breakout star of the first movie, because most of us, we didn't read Mirage and stuff. To us, Casey was the maniac in the cartoon show. So when we got this much more fleshed out, cool, friendly Casey that Turtles fans oh, this guy's so cool, I want to hang out with this guy. That that made us remember him a lot more than a lot of the other characters because
Yeah.
he just stood out a lot because we weren't. I don't think we were expecting him like when we were little kids. So yeah, it's definitely weird to not have him too. Like Tatsu, I think I would want more personally from the movie star line because he just never had an action figure ever. But I think Casey Jones is the weirder omission because he's such a main character. And movie 3, they made so many characters into action figures that it's really weird that they just didn't do Casey in that bunch. They did like Castle Guard and Kenshin and all that. And what was his name? The guy with the bird and everything. Like, they did all those characters, but
Yeah. So, and that's what I always thought too, because I can't even think of Walker. They did, and then they did a couple other people with horses. Did they do the Samurai Master guy or the guy that's leading the?
I think so.
The main bad guy, yes. And they just again, why wouldn't you do a Casey?
They did like April dressed in like the samurai outfit and everything. So
yeah, another weird thing that they did the Paige Turco one, but there's also no Judith Hogue figure, but that's not one that made my list. So
I can kind of see why they didn't do her. I mean, eventually they technically did do a movie star April, but I can kind of see why they didn't do her because like the regular April figures where she was wearing this bright yellow crazy comic book costume already weren't selling very good. So like just like an action figure of a real woman, I think wouldn't have sold at all. That probably would have been the weakest selling figure in the entire vintage line if they had made that.
Right.
So Casey would have sold though. I think, especially if he had the mask, I think he would have sold really well. My next one is
the
Chameleon. He's another Archie character. I actually did read his comic back, I think, in my early 20s. He's in like 2 or 3, but I read the original one where he's introduced. He was kind of like a secret agent who, like, detective who gets turned into a chameleon.
Yeah, that's because I've only ever seen a couple pictures of him, and I imagine him like the hard-boiled noir type detective is what I always saw his character as.
Yeah, and he in the comics he has the power to like shapeshift. He's almost like how Mutagen Man was in the cartoon and stuff. But I didn't really incorporate that. I figured if he was gonna have a play feature, he could either change color in water like Ray Fillet, or he could have like a wind up on his back with like the tongue coming out like a Toon Mike or something. So I don't know. I always like this guy. I know he's not like the most popular or most like famous Archie original character, but he's always been one of my favorites. I don't know why he just stuck out. I think he was actually in one of those like not the Archie comics, but he was also in this like there was these little like storybooks of the turtles. I have one with the neutrinos. I think he was in one of those if I'm not mistaken. He had like there was like birthday cards that had him on him. Like he was pushed a little bit early on in the Archie line, but I was just thought he was a really cool idea for a character, and I thought he was like perfect to be a Playmates figure because they loved their like reptile, crazy looking reptile characters and stuff. And I just thought he'd have a really fun get up. You could like mash him up with like Don the undercover turtle and stuff. And
yeah, that's like exactly where it went from my head with the jacket. And honestly, like if someone was just like, hey, I want a chameleon figure, I'd be like, oh, that wouldn't be one I cared about. But with the way you made it, it makes me want it. Like your renderings were making me want figures I never even knew I wanted.
Well, that's good. It's good to hear that because I wasn't sure if I was just drawing a bunch of stupid crap.
Oh, dude, these are dope, man. Like
I thought he'd be a great figure. So
yeah, that looks pretty sick, man.
That's since I didn't learn about him until I was in my early 20s and I read his issue. I started reading some Archie in my early 20s for the first time. But like once I found out about that guy, I'm like, damn it, why wasn't this guy a toy? Like I would have loved that guy as a toy as a kid. But your number 6.
All right, my number 6 is Human Baxter, and I feel like you could still make him fun for a human character. Like I would like him to be designed based off the Playmates one, but like you could easily do a lot of the missing boot. Like maybe you could have like a mutated hand or something like that. But I would want him to come with like 3 little buddies that were mousers because the mouser we got was not a good mouser. It was like a giant wind up one. And it was basically the same size as the turtles. Yeah. So I feel like getting a bunch of little buddy mousers would have been like the best accessory to have as a kid.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. I actually didn't even think of that as a possibility on my list, but that's such a good thing to mention because that's something I always wanted as a little kid that we never got was like correctly proportioned Mousers, because we got wacky walking Mouser. Like you said, he was as tall as the turtles, and it's like, okay, the one in the video game is like 3 times the size of the turtles. The ones we know and everything else are like 3 times smaller than the turtles. So what the hell is this one that's the same size as the turtles? And also, like you said, if you did like he was like partly mutated or whatever, like you could do a lot of cool stuff with him. So that's a surprise one you pulled out that now that you're saying, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a really cool idea, actually.
Yeah, and to me, it's just surprising because I can understand why they wanted to go with the mutated Baxter, because it's just, it's a very fun figure as well. But again, the first season, it's just weird that everything from it didn't get touched eventually, because everybody knows that first mini series. So it's, along with Granitor, it's just another really big surprising omission from the beginning of the series.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think that is like, because honestly, he appears as a human so much more in that show than he does as a fly.
Yeah.
He's
pretty much like a regular reoccurring character while he's a human, and then as soon as he turns into a fly, he pretty much goes into Dimension X and then comes back, and then goes to Dimension X and comes back.
Yeah, he becomes like a once or twice a season guy. Like he's not like, in season 1, season 2, he's just constantly like in the show. So yeah, it's definitely weird that they never made that, because even in the video games, he appeared more often, I think, early on in the NES at least, as the human than he did as the fly. Like, but by Turtles in Time, he was always the fly. But even then, even back in the arcade game and stuff, he was the human form. So yeah, it is really weird that he didn't do a figure.
Nice.
So my next one is Rex 1. A glaring omission, in my opinion, because again, of all like the original characters who came out in like those early seasons, we've said this before, even in our last top 10, I think we talked about this, but he's just stuck out to us. Like everyone from our generation knows this dude. So it was just weird we never got him, because we usually got like at least one robot a wave almost. Like, you got like technically the Foot Soldier's a robot in the first wave. Then you get like Krang's body, then you get Fugitoid, then you get Chrome Dome. And it's like we always kind of got robots, but we never got Rex 1. And I just think Rex 1 would make an awesome action figure. And I made all like the gray parts on him Vec Metal, because actually I didn't even mention Metalhead. We got Metalhead also.
Oh yeah.
Yes, because all the best robot figures had Vac Metal on them. So I figured he should have some of that. But yeah, it's just so weird we didn't get him as an action figure, because he was like made to be an action figure.
Yeah, so this guy will appear on my list. So you're kind of getting down. You pretty much guess what my top 5 is, pretty close at this point. Oh, shit. But when I thought about this guy, I wasn't sure if I'd want him to be like regular figured size, or more like Krang's android body, the giant one. But it seems like I wish there was like a halfway point between that would be the size that I would want him to have. Because I definitely want him to be a little bit bigger if he was a figure too. But I feel like the giant Krang's android body is really big. And I just, now if they were going to put Vac Metal on him, he probably would have to be a regular size figure. And I feel like I would want the Vac Metal more than anything. Yeah,
I think the way I kind of tried to, like, because I was thinking about that too. Like, he shouldn't be like humongous big, but he should be taller than the regular figures. And sometimes they were able to pull that off with characters like Hothead and Half Corp by having the extending neck.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he just had to be a bigger, bulkier one like Hothead or Dr. L. But I made him like wide. I made him very wide. And I figured like I'll shrink his head down so that like he proportionally looks larger than everyone else, kind of. I just kind of I figured like if they put him in the classic line, he probably would have been a regular height figure, because Chrome Dome was, and he should have been like humongous. So
yeah, I guess that's true. He was, he's actually small, honestly, in the line. Really, he's almost smaller than an average figure.
Yeah, I think like Dirtbag's like hunched over, and I think he's taller than Chrome Dome. Yeah. So, he's a
and one little nice touch you put on this figure, I like how you have a red light on one shoulder and a blue light on the other shoulder.
I hope you would notice that. I like that. Yeah, that touch myself.
Nice. I like that.
But yeah, I added a little bit of detail, because I always thought I had to think when making this. I don't think I went crazy enough with Rex 1's design, because I was thinking like, what would Playmates have done if they had done him? He probably wouldn't have looked anything like the cartoon one if they did him. But I tried to add more detail everywhere and kind of like add more like little bionic details everywhere and stuff and like more.
Design wise, this is like perfect. This thing looks sick.
Thanks. But yeah, Rex 1 is like, I guess they didn't do a lot of those characters who were new for the cartoon. Like they got to those later. Like they did the neutrinos later on and like Mona Lisa later on and stuff. But like usually they didn't mess with the characters that were made just for the cartoon. They did like the ones who were from Archie or Mirage more and stuff, I think. All right, we're in your top 5 now.
All right, yeah, and a lot of these will go kind of quick now because we've already hit them with you. So my number 5 was the combo of Rasputin and Attila. Like again, just huge glaring omissions. Like I guess not huge, but it just seems like if we would have gotten another foursome, like that really would have been cool to have that line, to have them either hang out with 4 dudes or battle against 4 dudes. Regardless, it just would have been cool to have another team of 4.
Yeah, as a kid, I don't think they were only in a few episodes. They weren't very big characters in the grand scheme of things. But as a kid, even then, they didn't really like fight crime in Florida and stuff. But when I was little, I just always thought like, oh, the turtles protect New York. The frogs protect Florida. It's like you just kind of assume that like they're the turtles of Miami or something. Like they're the turtles for their like location. And I guess like a lot of kids probably maybe thought that also, even though we never really saw them kick any ass too often in the cartoon. But yeah, it just seemed like it's a cool like equal team to have the turtles, because then you could set up things you play where like they meet up and then they together have to take on like a giant army of villains or something.
Yeah,
it would have made for some really fun play, I think, to do like team ups. You could even, if you're playing with like 3 kids also, like one kid could be the turtles, one kid could be the frogs, and then one kid could be all the villains or something, and like you have like an epic battle between like 3 kids with that. So
exactly, but instead they just gave us 2.
Yeah, it's like I never knew what to do with them as a kid, because it's like, okay, you have 2 frogs. I don't really know, like they don't really seem like they're a pair because you don't have a whole team. So
no, I didn't feel. I always felt like, I don't know. I never wanted to play with Attila because he was so ugly.
Napoleon, yeah,
or Napoleon. Jesus Christ, I cannot get their names right. I never wanted to play with Napoleon because he's so ugly.
I think like I would just lump Napoleon in with like Mondo Gecko or something. Like I just throw him in with random other heroes and like. Yeah, I feel like maybe Napoleon didn't sell well. Maybe that's the reason why, because it seemed like they intended to do the frogs like one by one originally, and they just kind of gave up very quickly. But
yeah,
I don't know, because they also only did Zach the Neutrino, and then like waves later they did the other 2. But
yeah, and they were in the sub line too. They weren't even in the regular line.
Yeah, and they were pretty lame. So.
Right.
Yeah, Kala's a lame action figure, but
yeah, she would not have made my list even if she didn't have an action figure. So
no, she wouldn't have. Dask, I think he looks cooler in the toy than he did in the show, but Kala's like just, I don't know. There was female figures in that vintage line were just cursed. Like they always came out bad. So.
Might have one coming later though.
I think I already know who it is, but
oh wow,
Armagon. So Armagon's like, he's a big character that didn't get a figure because he was in Archie. I know in Archie he's supposed to be like from the future. I just went with the whole like deep sea theme for mine because I think that's more fun.
I honestly like that even better.
And he did fight like Man Ray and Murdude in the Archie comics, so it's like he should have been like the villain to those guys or something. So but yeah, he was in the Archie comics. He was big. He was in the video game, and then he was in the 20. Like later on, I know this isn't talking about what he was back then, but he was in the 2012 show. He was in, I believe he's in the IDW comics. He's in Mutants in Manhattan, the video game and stuff. Like he's become like a staple Turtles mutant villain basically, and I think he kind of already was becoming that in the 90s. But it's crazy. I remember even like watching a video of someone playing Tournament Fighters for the first time. This was back in like 2008 when like watching people play retro games was like super exciting. It's like, oh look, this guy's just joking, drinking a beer and playing a Ninja Turtles game. Let me watch it. And I remember him being like, I think I had this guy's toy. I probably did, because you look at that character and you just think like he had to have had a toy. There's no way this guy didn't have a toy, but he didn't. So,
and again, it's kind of surprising because they don't have like a shark character or even like a dolphin character or a whale character or anything like that. And I feel like this just works perfect with like the deep sea aesthetic, the hook hand. That's like almost too perfect having the hook hand on him.
Yeah, I thought like it limits how much accessories you can have, but you know, I thought it was a cool, like, again, the asymmetry, they loved that. So I
Yeah.
figured like, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Slick design. Again, not even one that was on my top 10, but after seeing it, I'm like, damn, I wish they would have made a Playmates character that.
I imagine he would have like an articulated jaw like Worm also. Like
Oh, something I was thinking about, and now I'll bring it back up when we're thinking about this. So I'm wondering if, and I wonder if the frogs, if they didn't do the other two, or if they didn't do Armagon, because at this point in the line, Battletoads was out and Street Sharks was out. So maybe they didn't want to do anything that like looked anything like those.
that's
Same
what
reason with Biker Mice, they never put out a mouse character. Like they had Splinter, but he was a rat. But like I'm just
yeah.
thinking about this now.
I did think of that once, but not the Battletoads thing. But that's actually honestly, a very good theory. That might be it. They might have thought that like people would think it's a Battletoads figure or something. But I believe Armagon predates Street Sharks by many years because
Oh, I bet he does. But I bet what if he was like not one that was going to come in the first couple lines? They had him down the road, and then it came out, and they were like, "Well, we can't do this now."
well, Street Sharks was 96, so that was like when the
It
line
was that late.
Yeah, it was. I know that surprised me when I went back and learned that. I thought it was much earlier than that, but it was 96. So
That's very shocking to me, honestly.
the toy line was basically dead by the time Street Sharks came out.
That's very surprising.
Have you ever seen the commercial for the Street Sharks where Vin Diesel's like playing with
Oh,
them?
it's amazing. He's like so serious about it. And he's like a 20-some-year-old man. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's not like he's a kid or anything. He's a fully grown man.
He's wearing, I'm pretty sure he's wearing a vest with no shirt on under it, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he is. That was I didn't see that as a kid. I don't even know where that aired, but when
I think it was a
cool.
promo for like a toy fair or something like that.
Oh, that would make sense because he's introducing them like slowly. It's not like a quick commercial. It's like he tells you how badass every character
I think it was
is.
a marketing pitch for them when they originally came out.
I mean, Vin Diesel's apparently a huge nerd. He loves like D&D. He loves playing D&D and stuff.
Man,
so
good for him.
yeah, that's like he was only in the Chronicles of Riddick movies, like every single one, because he demanded that he play Riddick. He thought like, I understand this character better than anyone else in Hollywood, so I need to play Riddick.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for him. Nerdism.
So yeah, I think Armagon's like, honestly, he's up there as one of my top 5 probably of just like, I really think he should have had a vintage figure.
This might be my favorite render, honestly. I really like the way this one looks.
Oh, cool. Awesome. All right.
All right, so we got another repeater on here. So my number 4 is Granitor. And again, you pretty much nailed it with what I want it to look like. I would want it to look akin to Trag, where he has all the stupid bugs and stuff crawling all over him for no reason, and just kind of looks weird. And again, just like a bigger, stockier character, like just weird that we didn't get him. And I'll throw in like an honorable mention here too, just the Stone Warriors as well. It's weird that they didn't put another army builder in because they really only had the foot soldiers. They never really did another army builder again. So it's weird that they didn't try to pump out another figure like that could just be one mold that they sold a ton of.
I guess you could argue Triceraton was an
yep, there you go. That's a good one because he was infantryman. It wasn't a specific one, so
yeah. But then it's like, yeah, okay, they did like robotic foot soldier later on, which is stupid. It's just a repaint where he's metallic. But yeah, that's weird too. Honestly, I was thinking of putting that in as an honorable mention. Also, was like just rock soldier infantryman because it's just weird that we didn't get one. Let's see, my next one is Shogun. So another robot. This is so he was the other guy made up for the NES arcade game. So there was Tora, and then later on in the game there was Shogun, and he was like a robot samurai.
Is he in the at home number 2, like the NES version?
Yeah, he's in the level. I don't know if you've ever beaten that game.
I don't think I have. I think I've only beaten the arcade version. I don't know if I've ever beaten the NES version.
Okay, yeah, the at-home version. Later on, you get to a level that's like a dojo kind of, and there's all these like paintings of tigers on the wall, and the tigers jump out of the paintings and attack you.
I don't think I've ever got that far in the home one.
Okay, so that's why I made all his well, not all of his, but I made like some of his accessories based off of tigers, and you can't see it here, but if you zoomed in, there's like little tiger stripes on all his art accessories.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, he's the boss of that one. And if you watch the commercial actually for the NES arcade game Turtles, it's so complicated because it was the first game in the arcades, but then it was 2 on the NES, and it was called the arcade game, but it was on the NES. But when you see the commercial for it, it is like these really crappy, like late 80s, early 90s CG models of Tora and Shogun in the commercial. And they come and kind of like throw stuff at the screen or something.
But I gotta watch the commercial after this. I don't remember this at all.
This is like the only guy I don't want him as much as Tora. Tora was the one that bothered me a lot as a kid. When I was a kid and I see my brother get to this guy, I couldn't even make out what I was looking at when he was fighting him. But I just want him just to finish that. It's like, well, we might as well just get all the original bosses that were in that game just to say we have them. So now, like, they're not just nothing when you fight them. They're actually like, oh, it's that guy, my toy right here. So I think,
yeah, honestly, I didn't know there was another one other than Tora, because like I said, I don't think I've ever gotten this far on the NES version before. So this is like kind of blowing my mind a little bit. This is almost a new character for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think he's nowhere near as popular as Tora, because I think A, a lot of people didn't get that far, and B, again, when you look at him in the NES, you don't really know what the hell you're looking at. So some people might just think like, oh, is this a robot shredder or something? Is this?
That's probably what I would have thought it was, just seeing like a 8-bit Nintendo. Yeah, 8-bit. Yeah, so
yeah. So I just it's not one I probably wanted as a kid, but I think like looking back retroactively, I'm like, yeah, we should have got Shogun. That would have been a cool figure. And again, his head I made vac metal, because don't make a robot if you're not going to make him vac metal. So.
Right. All right, so we're into my top 3 now. So my number 3 is Tempestra, and it's one you haven't actually hit yet. And again, we don't have her in NECA. Like, it's just really weird that this is a character that almost anybody can think of when they think back on TMNT, and she has never gotten any love in action figure form whatsoever. And I know she might have been a little bit of, I don't want to say late in the cartoon, because it seems like, I mean, I guess Muckman came later. Like, there was a couple other characters that came in season 4 and stuff. So it is just weird. I think maybe they're just afraid to do more female characters, but I don't know. I can't believe that they never tried to make this character in any version of any line up to this point.
Yeah, it's really, I'm very shocked she doesn't have a NECA figure yet. Like I said, I did hear that in one interview, someone at NECA said they didn't like her. So that might be the reason why we still haven't gotten her. Which is a very Super 7 thing to say, actually. Like, we only need the figures we want. But yeah, she would have made a really cool figure, especially because most of the female figures were good guys. Actually, I think all of the female figures were good guys.
Yeah, there is no female bad guys in the line.
Yeah, because we have a million versions of April. We have Kala, we have Mona Lisa, Irma. Oh, yeah, they're all good guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, one of those is like a thirsty, dorky, like news. She's not even a news reporter. She's like a secretary. Like we got some pretty crappy female figures, and Tempestra would have been badass.
Yeah, and again, more honorable mentions here. I would like if they would have made the 3 things that she makes too, like the electric monster, the ice monster, and then the dragon, and just made those like figures too to go along with her. And they could have definitely done a little bit more, because they're pretty boring drawings, especially like the electric figure and the electric monster and the ice monster. So they definitely could have done the Playmates vibe to class those up a little bit too.
Yeah, I feel like for the electric monster, they definitely could have made it like its body's electricity, but there's like just like technology, there's like appliances all inside of its body.
Yep, there you go. See, man, dude, you said that in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, Tempestra would have been a really cool one, I think. She's not on my list, but I think she would have been actually, there's not a single female character on my list, actually. Maybe the female figures from my childhood scarred me enough. So actually, I didn't have any of them as a kid, but
weren't allowed.
Yeah, I wanted Mona Lisa. Yeah, but that was off limits. But yeah, I never even wanted April. I saw her in stores plenty of times. It was like, oh, cool, they have April. Anyway, like who else do they have? So, but Tempestra probably, maybe she would have been off limits also because she's just she's a girl. But she's probably one that like me and my brother would both be thinking like, but she's badass, like.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely a cool one. And again, kind of like Rex 1, it's like she's one of those characters everyone remembers from the cartoon show, and she's never had any figure at this point.
No.
Rex 1's had a figure now, but she doesn't have one piece of merchandise. She's just in that. Oh, she's in Shredder's Revenge. But
I was just gonna say that's the one recent time she has gotten love is Shredder's Revenge.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd be down for a Tempestra figure. So I had Jaguar. All we need is Dreadmon then to finish up the Mighty Mutanimals. So I figured let's get Dreadmon because he would have made. I think he makes an even cooler figure than Jaguar because he just has that like craziness to his design where I think he works with Playmates really well. If anything, I probably didn't Playmates him up enough. Like he probably would have been even more detailed if Playmates had done this dude.
Okay, and it's funny you say that because I feel like he actually looks way funner than Jaguar did. And I think it is just inherent of this design. He's kind of dark and more like evil looking, but I like how you kind of did like almost like the witch doctor theme with like the little skulls and stuff on him. Like,
yeah. Well, actually, the little skulls in his hair, he does actually have in the comics.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I really like the design of this one for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I think he would have made a super fun figure. I know he's supposed to be like a type of wolf, which for some reason, it just bothers me. Like my OCD, it's like, we already have Razar. Like, we don't need another wolf. So I always thought of him as a hyena. I thought he seemed more like a hyena. So I think of him as a hyena. So, we had the action figures sometimes screwing up what kind of animal they were. Like Mona Lisa, they call a lizard, and some people say she's a salamander and stuff. So if I was going to Playmatesify this guy and his package, I'm just going to call him a hyena all over it.
Yeah, and I feel like, oh shit. And I feel like he definitely does ride that line because it seems like sometimes when he's drawn, he has like a little bit longer of a snout like a wolf, but I do see like body wise, I would see more hyena too. So yeah, it could definitely go either way for me.
Yeah, especially like with the spots he has on some of his fur. Like, I don't know of any wolf that's spotted, but hyenas have spots. So I always just thought of him as a hyena, but that's mostly because my brain is just like, Razar's already the wolf. We don't need a wolf. We need the hyenas. But yeah, I think he would just make a really fun toy. I think he'd make an awesome addition. I'm just realizing now that I made little holes on the back of his bandolier to put the nunchucks, but the way I designed the nunchucks, they wouldn't fit in there. which is pretty Playmates, actually. Playmates love to do shit like that. But yeah, I know, again, he's not one I have any personal connection to. I never read any of the comics he was in, but you got to finish up the Mutanimals.
As I said, we were talking about earlier, you just can't leave one out from a team or it's just weird.
Exactly. We got Mondo, we got Ray Fillet, we got Leatherhead, and then if we just had Jaguar and Dreadmon, you'd have like the full team.
Yeah, so my number 2 was Rex 1. My number 2 is Rex 1. Yeah, my number 2 is Rex 1, which is one we already talked about. And my number 1 and 2 were my 2 easiest picks. They were the 2 first things that I instantly thought of when I'm like, what doesn't exist that I wanted? My number 2, far and away, my hardest answer for sure. But Rex is one that it's a video that I had on episode that I had on VHS. I watched it a million times. And it's just a character that I always think about when I think about the original animated series. Yeah,
he's super iconic. I think because also like sometimes they added new characters for the show and they weren't always great. They didn't always like click with audiences. Like you understand why they didn't get a toy like Og and stuff. Like you get why they didn't make toys of all of them. But which I mean, I guess he was modeled after Pee Wee Herman. Rest in peace. But that blew my mind when that happened. That sucks. But yeah, he was really funny and like just a cool design and stuff. I think Rex 1 was like a winner. He was like a character, like people saw him and instantly just like, okay, we like this one. More of him, please.
Yeah. And again, it's during a time where like that was kind of a cliche to have like RoboCop spoofs and stuff like that, but it still was done really well to where he was kind of dumb and dorky but fun at the same time. Again, I get those I said this before, and I think it was our first episode we ever recorded when he jumps off that building and just lands in the ground up to his waist to talk to April or whoever. It's just a very, like, it reminds me of The Tick whenever I see that.
Yeah.
Like, it's just good, fun humor that just, again, it's a great part of my childhood. I love watching it now. I just would love to have had a Playmates version of him. Glad NECA finally gave us one. That's probably one of my favorite figures from the last year. So, yeah, cool. We at least got him in some form.
Yeah, for a vintage toy, because I didn't feature a lot of the play features in my hypothetical ones, but they loved their play features. So I wonder, would you want him to have like opening pecs that like have like something
And either
them?
tapes that could blast out, or just have a stupid thing where his tongue could slip in and out or something like that.
I think if you open the pecs, you remember Mask? Not
the action figure line.
Yeah, the one for like the 80s cartoon Mask.
Yeah.
They had one, or no, I don't think it was Mask. It was something else. There was some toy line. I think it was Cops. The one just called Cops.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think they were a Playmates line. I could be wrong.
I think they were. They actually had a robot cop toy that when you opened his chest, there was like Gatling guns inside.
Oh, nice.
So it's almost like the fembots from Austin Powers,
right?
But that's kind of like, it's almost like, man, Playmates, you probably could have just made Rex 1 out of that figures.
Right.
But yeah, I think he'd have to have some kind of play feature, I think, to make him like.
If they had the back metal, that'd probably be all the budget could handle. So
probably, yeah. Especially since I think I gave him more accessories than anybody else in my versions.
Right.
All right, so we're both down to our last one. I guess before I go in, I'll do some honorable mentions. Most of them are ones you've already mentioned yourself. Tatsu should have had a figure. We already talked about that. Not one I would have like loved, but kind of seems necessary because he's one of the most recurring allies of the Turtles. Zack the Fifth Turtle, I think, probably should have had a figure.
Yeah, so these are like, there's a ton of characters like him that I thought of where it's like, well, I really don't want a figure of him. He's like one that falls into that category for sure.
I think he would have at least sold somewhat well, though, especially if he's got like the shell on and like the eye mask and everything and the hockey stick. Like he's got like the full thing. But he definitely, I wouldn't have liked him as a kid. I probably wouldn't have bought that toy. I would have been like, I didn't even get Zack the Neutrino as a kid. So I probably wouldn't have gotten Zack the Fifth Turtle, but
right.
I'll throw him in as an honorable mention. Karai, I think, isn't a worthy honorable mention. She should have had an action figure. And actually, what your Tempestra spot I thought was going to be Karai, actually. But yeah, I think she because she was around before the line ended. I think she came out.
Like she had to have been, because the Mirage line actually lasted a lot longer than you think it does. It took them a long time to make those 61 issues, so it goes pretty far out. And she comes in towards the end.
I think I want to say it was like 1993 actually that she.
That sounds about right.
So it was like around the time that they were making like, Half Court and Sandstorm and stuff. But yeah. I think she should have got a figure at that time. Even like, I know she's a ninja, not a samurai, but even like the way they did Shote, where he was part of the Shogun series, maybe just do like Shogun Karai or something. It's just weird that Karai never had a figure. Even Lotus Blossom didn't have a figure. I still always have that theory that I think Karai came from Lotus Blossom, but she definitely should have had one. Movie Casey is definitely one. I'd say Sisyphus the beetle from the Tournament Fighters, just because he's a cool, like a rhinoceros beetle is just a cool, design for a mutant, and they always did cool bug mutants. The bugs were always cool. Like Anthrax is awesome, Scumbug's awesome, Baxter's awesome. So yeah, and then I think like kind of a cheat one as an honorable mention, I would say like an actual Screw Loose, like like not as tall as like Wingnut, like a little shorter, but like actually articulated and painted and with all the crazy detail of everyone else. And, but
that's one I didn't even think about, but that is a good one.
Yeah, because I was pretty happy when NECA finally made like a real Screw Loose. And all right, so now let's get to my final one, Monster.
Yeah, so you actually showed this for your second to last one. I'm like, well, this is my number one pick, so let's just end on it so we can just go out on this high note. Your rendering is exactly what I wanted. Ever since Shredder's Revenge came out and they just showed their pizza monsters made out of pizza, it's like, yes, that is how you make this figure ridiculous and awesome, and that's what you did. He even has the freaking pizza foot stuck on his box, so I probably would have, or pizza box stuck on his foot, so I would have hated that as a kid. but yeah, this looks perfect.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this in an earlier podcast. Like we were talking about the pizza monsters, and we were saying, I think it was when we were talking about our last top 10 actually. And I think we said like, it's weird they didn't get a figure. And I think I mentioned, I always wanted him to be covered in pizza toppings and have like melting cheese for skin and like marinara sauce all over him and stuff. And so I went with it. And yeah, I put like peppers and onions and pepperonis and mushrooms all over him and stuff. And I couldn't think of too many accessories to give him, so I gave him like a pizza cutter and then just like a little not unevolved version. And
yeah, little buddy, I like that a lot too.
They're definitely another one like Rex 1 where it's like they could be bigger. Like this guy could arguably be a mega mutant if you wanted him to be.
So that's kind of what I was thinking with mine. I would have wanted him to be that bigger size, like not quite as tall as Krang, even though they do vary heights greatly in the cartoon too. But I saw more in line with the mega mutants when I envisioned it as well.
Yeah, like a needle nose kind of sized figure or something. But I think he could work just as a regular sized one. I mean, the way I've designed him, you know, he would be in some crazy pose where his head's turned to the side and like,
yeah, exactly. You could crouch him a lot with all of his joints, like literally have his knees coming up to his chest. Like you could make him in a really squatted position with how lanky he is, and he would still appear to be a lot more figure than he was.
Yeah, and definitely like that tail would have to be a separated piece that you have to pop on yourself. Like they couldn't fit him in the package if he was like all in one piece. But yeah, they're such cool. There's not much to say about him that we haven't said about Rex 1 and Tempestor already, but they're so iconic. Everyone who watched that cartoon remembers the Pizza Monsters. And the only thing I can think of why they didn't do figures from them is because they were afraid that like Kenner would come knocking on their door or something.
I mean, I think so. They're literally xenomorphs. You know what I mean? Like they are as rip off could be, essentially.
Yeah, but that's why I think they should have gone with the emphasis on the pizza part and like you made them more like pizza. They like change them up a bit so that they don't look like, still looks a lot like a xenomorph, but you know, try to like make it their own thing, which I thought Playmates was usually very good at doing. So
yeah, it's just like, so I've said before, I always thought Rex 1 was only in one episode. He's not. He is in more than one. But the Pizza Monsters, I feel like I can say with confidence, are only actually in one episode. And as far as figures that only have one appearance go, they are about the most memorable ones for me. It's another one that I had on VHS. I watched it a million times, and it's in the second season where things still are starting to get, I guess they're starting to get a little goofy, but they're still kind of fun, and it's one of my favorite episodes, and this is just perfect, exactly what I wish they would have done.
That's awesome. Yeah, they are. They're one of the most memorable like one-off things that ever happened in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think, or at least the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, it's like I said, the only reason I can think they didn't get a figure is because of Kenner, but I don't know. I can't understand, because then like some characters you have no problem didn't get figures, like Rex 1. So it might just be like, I don't know, maybe Playmates just didn't think this was a worthy design for a figure. That's some of the honorable mentions I forgot to mention is some of the unreleased figures from Playmates, like the Army Ant Mega Mutant. I would have loved to get.
Oh yeah.
The Mr. Bad Wrench was a pretty fun idea, and I don't think he's in. I was talking to you about this recently, and I'm pretty sure we confirmed he's not in Rad Plastic, the book. But I have seen this concept art before of Neutralizer, who eventually became a character in the 2012 cartoon.
Yep.
But he was going to be a figure in the vintage line, like a purple metal cowboy bounty hunter, like cyborg Newt, and they never made him. But that would have been an awesome one. I think that would have been a great figure.
Yeah.
So I think those are some honorable mentions I forgot about. But yeah, the 10 that I care the most about are the ones that I drew the pictures for. So technically,
yeah, again, you sold me, man. So you definitely had some good picks, characters that I didn't even think of. That once I saw them in this action figure form, like, man, I cannot wait to see what your video game looks like, because every time you do anything art-wise, I'm like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen before in my life.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, the video game's gonna have it's gonna go public. Not gonna be out, but it's gonna go public by the end of the year. So
Nice.
coming soon. But yeah, so that's our picks for our top 10 figures we wish existed in the vintage line.
All right, so real quick, I'm going to make you pick your top 3. Make a definitive top 3 real quick.
My top 3, probably Armagon, Pizza Monster, Granitor. It's probably my top 3.
Okay.
I think I would go with that because I want those ones the most. Probably number 4 is probably the Chameleon.
Yeah,
and
I'm not going to lie. Figure-wise, Armagon would probably crack my top 10 now after seeing your render. So
he's made to be a toy. It's like
dude, it looks so good.
It's a crime that the only Armagon toy we've ever gotten. Well, no, there was one for 2012, but the only like classic design Armagon toy we ever got was that arcade one. Yeah, that like wasn't even the best arcade figure that they've done.
No, far from it.
But I think Archie Armagon is coming. I think they'd be crazy to do that.
Hopefully it's a new mold, because that one is definitely feeling a bit dated at this time. So
I think they might use the same head, because the head was pretty good, but I'm hoping the body will be different.
Yeah, it's on the Triceratops buck. So
yeah, which was already like the Leatherhead buck, which was already kind of the Bebop buck. It's like they reused those a lot earlier on in the toy line. They really don't do that anymore, NECA. So
yeah.
All right, so don't expect me to do this for every top 10. I'm probably not going to go this all.
I was going to say, next time I feel like we need to coordinate. I need to give you my top 10 ahead of time so I can have visuals too.
Because I don't know what the next top 10 is going to be, but when we hit episode 30, but at some point I'd like to maybe do like top 10 sublines we wish existed or something.
Oh, okay.
But
we might do that just so I can see your drawings. So.
I was just gonna say, don't expect me to automatically do drawings of those, because these took a lot longer than that. Even though they're like quick, there's no lines or anything. They're just like very simple. They took longer, especially when I need to be getting work done on the game all the time. It's like they cut in a lot, so I might not do this that often. But I just wanted to, because I've always had ideas of what these guys would have looked like if they were in the action figure line. So
yeah, well, definitely for people listening on iTunes, we'll try to figure out some way to get these out so you guys can see them, because you should be able to see them on. If you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube. So
yeah. All right. Well,
all right.
Good episode. I can't believe we already hit 20.
All right. Heck yeah,
and,
man.
Yeah. Next one is 21.
All right. Later, guys.
Later.
Peace.